OpenAI charges you every time you transcribe audio. Every second of speech costs money. And if you're building something that processes thousands of audio files, that bill adds up fast. But what if you could run the exact same API, same endpoints, same JSON responses, completely free on your own machine with one command? That's Docker Whisper. One Docker command spins up a fully self-hosted speech-to-text server that is drop-in compatible with the OpenAI Whisper API. Your existing code doesn't change. You just point it at localhost instead of OpenAI's servers. Let's talk about what actually happens when you run it. You pull the image, you pass your GPU or CPU settings, and within minutes, you have a server running at port 8000. You send it an audio file, any format, MP3, WAV, M4A, and it returns a JSON transcript. Same structure as OpenAI's response, word for word. That means if you build an app using the OpenAI Whisper API, you can switch to this with a single line change in your config file. The transcription quality is Whisper, not a clone, not a knockoff. It is literally running OpenAI's open source Whisper model, the same weights, the same architecture. You pick the model size, tiny for speed, base or small for a balance, medium or large for maximum accuracy. On a modern GPU, the large model transcribes a 1-minute audio file in under 5 seconds. And here's what surprised me most. The setup genuinely is that simple. One command, no Python environment to manage, no dependency conflicts, no CUDA installation headaches if you use the CPU version. Docker handles all of it. The container includes everything the model needs. You just run it. But here's the thing. Let's be honest about what this doesn't do, because there are real limits. First, this is not a real-time streaming transcription solution. You send a file, you get a response. If you need live captions, like transcribing a phone call as it happens, this setup doesn't do that out of the box. You'd need additional tooling on top. Second, speaker diarization, knowing who said what, is not included. You get the transcript, but not speaker labels. If your use case needs to separate multiple speakers, you're going to need to layer in something like PioNote on top of the output. Third, and this matters a lot depending on your hardware, on CPU only, the large model is slow. We're talking several minutes to transcribe 1 minute of audio. If you don't have a GPU, you need to pick a smaller model and accept lower accuracy. The tiny model on CPU is fast, but you'll notice more errors on accented speech or noisy audio. And fourth, this is a server, not a managed service. There's no dashboard, no usage analytics, no automatic scaling. If you need to handle 100 simultaneous requests, you need to architect that yourself. This is a building block, not a finished product. Now, where does this get genuinely interesting in the near future? The most obvious use case is local document processing pipelines. Imagine a law firm, a hospital, or any organization with strict data privacy requirements. They cannot send audio to OpenAI's servers. Full stop. But they can run Docker Whisper on-premise, process sensitive recordings entirely locally, and feed that text into downstream AI workflows. Summarization, extraction, classification, all without a single byte leaving their network. Another realistic future use, pairing this with something like 11 Labs for voice workflows. You could build a fully local, voice-in, processed text-out pipeline, then use 11 Labs on the output side for voice synthesis. The transcription piece stays private and free, and you only pay for the generation step if needed. There's also a strong case for this in hobbyist automation, transcribing podcast episodes, meeting recordings, lecture audio, where the volume is high enough that OpenAI's per-second pricing becomes painful. But the accuracy requirements don't need the very latest model. So why does this exist? Because OpenAI open-sourced Whisper, the model, but not the infrastructure. They gave you the engine but not the car. Docker Whisper builds the car. It wraps Whisper in a production-ready server, exposes the same API you're already used to, and removes every friction point between you and running it locally. The person who built this solved a real problem. The gap between Whisper exists and is free, and I can actually use Whisper in my app without rewriting everything. That gap was Docker, an API layer, and some configuration work. Now it's one command. Is this the right tool for you? If you're paying OpenAI for transcription and you have a machine with even a mid-range GPU, the math is simple. Run this, save money, keep your data local. If you're on CPU only, start with the small model and benchmark your specific use case before committing. If you want to see what a full local AI stack looks like, transcription, processing, and deployment all self-hosted, that's exactly what we're covering next episode. Subscribe so you don't miss it.